Hi everybody, Lar from Complete Test Success here, and today we're looking at IELTS Writing Speaking Part. IELTS Writing Task 2. Getting mixed up already. Okay, so today we're looking at IELTS Writing Task 2. I'm going to show you a question, and then I'll get you to give me your responses. So together we will write an essay together during this lesson. I'll take your ideas, I'll put them on a document, and we'll write an essay together. As we're doing this, I will tell you what problems you have with your answers. So maybe it is that your ideas are irrelevant. They mightn't be specific enough. You might have some vocab, some grammar issues that we need to talk about, some issues with coherence and cohesion. So together we will work through a question and we will construct it. Apologies for the noise. Probably hear that. My next door neighbor is doing some construction at the moment, but I don't expect it to continue for the entire lesson. All right, so can we see Khalil from Bangladesh? Hi Khalil, welcome. Good to see you here. Okay, so we may as well get started. What we're looking at is a task 2 question, as I said, and this is it. Nowadays, children spend less time playing sport than they did in the past. Why is this happening? How can children be motivated to play sports more frequently? So the first thing we need to do here is we need to write a paraphrase. So every single task 2 question, every single task 1 question will always begin with a paraphrase. Now, the most important thing here is that it has the same meaning as the question. So we're looking at this bit at the top. We need to rewrite this. It has to have the same meaning and it should be easy to understand. If someone cannot understand it, that's not a good paraphrase. If it has a different meaning, that's not a good paraphrase. So those are the goals. Same meaning, easy to understand. Now, after that, you need to change some of the vocab, change the grammar. We don't want to just copy the question. So as long as you have the meaning the same and it's easy to understand, after that, consider what vocab can you change and what things can you, what parts of it, what synonyms do you know? So basically paraphrase the question. So what I would like you to do is paraphrase the question, share your paraphrase with me in the comments, and then I will give you feedback on what you've done well and what things you could do to improve. Sarjan, hello to you. Welcome. Apologies, I definitely cannot say your name correctly. From Uzbekistan, good to see you here. Hi, Mirabel. Hey, Vipin, good to see you here again. Okay, so that's it for now. Write your paraphrase, share it with me, and then we will look at that. While you're writing your paraphrase, while I'm waiting for you to share, now a lot of you I'm familiar with already, and I know you're already attending my live feedback lessons. But for those of you who aren't already aware, I have free live feedback lessons on Zoom every week. So you click on that link there. You'll find the link in the comments or in the video description. Click on the link, sign up, and then you'll be able to join me for more support on Zoom as well. So I have one of those lessons tomorrow, and each week we cover a different part of the test. So much like with these live streams, 1 week we'll do task 1, 1 week task 2, 1 week speaking. So we'll look at all the different parts of the test together. We also cover reading and listening in those live feedback lessons. It's quite challenging to help students with reading and listening in a live stream because there's some back and forth. You know, we need to talk about what your problems are and kind of get a bit more detail. So it's a bit tricky to do that in the live streams, but we do cover reading and listening in the live feedback lessons as well. OOYY, hello to you. Welcome. Okay, so we have our first paraphrase. These days, juveniles spend less time engaging in physical activities rather than in the past. Rather than, no. Rather than is if you say what they're doing instead. So if they're doing one thing rather than doing exercise, but not now rather than the past. So that cohesive device is inaccurate there, Sujan. Nazmul, these days youngsters tend to use little time than they used to be in the past. So you've got some grammar issues here. Tend to use little time than they used to be. That grammatically is incorrect. Also, the word youngsters is informal, and we cannot use the word youngsters in our essay because we can only use formal or neutral words. So no informal words. The word youngster is informal. We cannot use that. Recently and nowadays isn't exactly the same thing. So recently means, something that's happened in the recent past, whereas nowadays more describes something that's currently happening. So recently would be, a different meaning, so not appropriate. Children spend less time playing outdoor games, unlike in the past. So when we're saying less means you're comparing the time. So less time compared to the past, not less time unlike the past. So when we're using a comparative saying that they're less time, we cannot say unlike. So the comparative doesn't work with the word unlike. Okay, thanks to the technology. No, we don't want to change the meaning. So remember I said at the beginning, it has to have the same meaning. You've said thanks to technology. The question did not say thanks to technology. It didn't say anything about technology. So later on, yes, we do need to explain why. But right now, we just need to paraphrase the question. So don't change the meaning. How to give opinion or idea in intro. We will look at that after the paraphrase. Pupils of the current era. Pupils, children. Well, we're talking about, when we talk about pupils, we're trying to say in the context of when they're in school, but this isn't necessarily the children when they're at school that they're doing that. It's just in general, so it's not, when we say pupils, it's not an appropriate paraphrase. Seldom set their foot on the ground to play a game. You're making it very complicated. So what you want to do is just use the most direct way of saying something. Making it more complicated isn't going to improve your score. You want it to be very clear as well. So generally, when you say that they seldom put their foot on the ground to play a game, that doesn't make me think they spend less time playing sports. So, it's not clear, and that's the problem. So, Jean, these days, juveniles isn't really an appropriate word. It's not the word that we would use to describe children more generally. Juveniles spend less time engaging in physical activities. Well, it said specifically playing sport. So physical activity could be, other things they're doing which are physical, but not a sport. So no, physical activity isn't a synonym for a sport. Although they're very similar, it's not the same. So if you go running on a treadmill, you're doing a physical activity, but you're not playing a sport. So, be careful that it has the same meaning. If it doesn't have the same meaning, you haven't paraphrased the question successfully. Vipin, the time spent, so they have to be spent. The time spent by children, because it's passive, the time spent by children these days in playing sports are less as compared to the past. Okay, so you've got some grammar and vocab issues here, Vipin, but it has the same meaning and it is clear. So far, this is the most appropriate paraphrase we've seen. So I'm going to copy that into our document. So we get Vipin. Let me see, where is this? Okay, so let's start our document here. I have an angry student. Olagbegi is angry. Okay. All right, so the time spent. So let's start with these days. So it's best to establish when are we talking about. So these days, time spent by children playing sport. A passive structure actually is overly complicated. So let's say the amount of time children spend playing sport is less as compared to the past. Okay, so that's it. That's our paraphrase done. Good. Okay, thank you, Vipin. All right, so from there, and another student just asked about this, we have to decide on what ideas we're going to use. So there are two questions here. The first question, why is this happening? So we need a reason for that. The second question, how can children be motivated to play sports more frequently? So what we need is one idea for each question. So that's your next task, is to tell me what main ideas can we use. Before we write the essay, we need to decide what our ideas are. We'll put those in the introduction, and later on, we will develop those. But right now, I just want to know what main ideas can we use. Once we find some suitable ideas, I will add those to the document. Okay, so that's your next task. What main ideas can we use? Okay, as you're writing that, I'll continue giving feedback to the other students. Khalilur, these days, children use a little of their time in playing various sports rather than they spent in past. No. So we need a comparative. If you're going to say they spend little time, they might have spent little time in the past. It didn't say how much time. It's just that they're spending less time now. So it might have been a little in the past and even less now, but there's no comparison when you say little. So you need to use a comparative there. Than they spent in the past. So you're making mistakes with articles as well there, Khalilur. Nazmul, these days, the youth and children. Okay. The youth tend to use less time playing sports, So when you're saying use less time, you have to follow that with an infinitive. So they use less time to play sports than they used to. Good. And then full stop at the end. These days, the child, well, it would have to be children in plural. Minors, no, we would talk, when we're talking about minors, it would be in the context of, talking about the judicial system, not just talking about children generally. So, in that context, we could call children and minors as synonyms, but not in the context of just children in general. So even though it has the same meaning, it's not the same meaning. It's not the appropriate context. As they used to in previous decade. The previous decade would just be the last 10 years. It didn't say that. So again, we don't want to change the meaning. We want the meaning to stay the same. Lately, young stars, no, nothing about stars, just children. Spend less time playing physical activities. No. So again, physical activities and sports are not the same thing than they did in the past. Yes. So physical activity, a sport is a type of physical activity, but sport is not a synonym for physical activity. So physical activities contain all aspects of exercise, whereas sports contain a small aspect of that. So not every physical activity is a sport. So that's where we're going wrong there. These days, children tend, wrong spelling there for tend, to reduce amount of time. They're not reducing the amount of time. It's about how much time they're spending. So they're not reducing how much time they're spending. It's that when we compare the amount of time that they spend with the people from the past, that the amount of time they're spending is lower. So it's not that they're reducing how much time they're spending. They're just spending as much time as they're spending. So reduce is wrong. Reduce is not accurate. Amount of time allocating to sports. So it would be allocated to playing sports than in the past. Today, children spend less time on sport activities. We just say playing sports compared to the past. Yes. Children at present do not allocate much time for sports as they have done in the past. No. So they do not allocate as much time for sports as they did in the past. So just grammar mistakes there that you'll need to tidy up. Hey, John Snow. These days, children are not spending enough time doing physical activities as compared to the past. So the question didn't say enough time. We weren't talking about that. It was talking about It was talking about less time. So we're not talking about if they're playing sport enough or they're not playing sport enough. So the word enough isn't part of the question. That's not what we're discussing. Muku muku. Presently, young people spend less time playing physical activities than they would have to say than they did in the past. But yeah, the rest is good. Today's youth are participating less on sports as compared to participating less in sports as compared to, and then you'd have to say the past, not earlier. Earlier would be more about it doesn't accurately communicate that. Will you be sorry, it's a mistake? I'm not oh yeah, no problem. Sorry, Jan. This could be because children are more exposed to social media and therefore tend to focus more time indoors rather than outdoors. Okay, so there's our response to the first one. Okay, let me grab that. Sorry for the noise again. Okay, so Surjan, here's the first idea. So this could be because, I'm not going to say could be kind of makes it like I'm not sure myself. So at least make it sound like you're confident with your own idea. And then if somebody wants to disagree with you, that's fine. So this is because children, now we're already talking about children. So we would be better to use a pronoun. That's better for your coherence and cohesion score. So we don't want to repeat the noun. If we can use a pronoun, we should. This is because they are more exposed to social media. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this is because of social media and therefore tend to focus more time indoors rather than outdoors. No, I'm just going to say that. This is because of social media. Okay, so this is because, what have I done there now? Because they are more exposed to social media, excuse me. And then I'll just delete this bit. So in our introduction, we don't want to explain it. We don't want to go into too much detail. Just give the main idea as itself. So this is because they are more exposed, or this is because of social media. There we go. That's enough. Right. So now we still need the idea and a response to the idea, how can children be motivated to play sports more frequently? So I need that before I can move on. So we need one idea for the other question. How can children be motivated to play sports more frequently? Okay, Rasif. These days, online games are more popular than physical sports among children. So that would be the first idea. Yep, good. That would work. Advancements in technology, good. In my country, young people tend to spend their time playing video games, good. Not motivated from their parents. So for number two, we're not going to say why are they not motivated. We want to say how can we make them more motivated. So what can be done to make them more motivated? It can be due to the usage of technology, good. They tend to spend leisure time on mobile phones, good. Recently, it is observed that young children would have to be it has to be present, not past. Spend less time playing sports as compared with a D at the end, compared to the past. Hello. Sammy, this is because of recent advancements in technological devices, good. For entertainment and games, good. So you all have similar ideas as to why it's happening. In my country, most people are interested in playing online games and less interested in playing sports, good. This is because parents are scared to let their children go out unattended, and I think it should be encouraged. It should be encouraged. So your first idea is appropriate, and I think it should be encouraged them by informing. Okay, so I think they should be encouraged by informing them of the benefits of physical activity. Okay, good. So there's our second idea. So we're going to have to inform them. Maybe where would we do that? Possibly in school. So in school, we could get them to okay, and we can motivate them to more. We can motivate them to participate more by teaching them of the importance. What's the idea again? The importance, the benefit of physical activity. Teaching them about the benefits of doing physical activities, of being physically. Okay, so that's our grammar mistake there. Thank you, Grammarly. Okay, so that's our introduction finished. We've paraphrased the question. We've given an idea for the first. We've paraphrased the question statement, given an idea for the first question, and we've given an idea for the second question. So that's our introduction. We're done. We've done everything we need to do. Our ideas are relevant. Our ideas are specific, very important. So we've done that. And that brings us to the next thing, where we need to develop our ideas in a paragraph. So we're going to take our first idea again. This is because of social media. And we're going to have to repeat that in the topic sentence. So our first body paragraph is going to be about the first idea. Our first sentence of our first body paragraph is the topic sentence. And we just repeat that same idea again. So the main reason So now we need to develop this idea. So we need to develop this with an explanation and an example, possibly. So that's my task for you now. How can we develop this idea here? Okay. So that's our new task. How can we develop the idea that they are playing less sport because they are spending more time on social media? So we need to explain that, possibly an example if our explanation isn't long enough, but we need to write about 100 words. Our essay, our paragraph should be about 100 words long. So if you can write an explanation that brings you to 100 words, that's great. But typically we will need an explanation and an example to write a 100-word paragraph. Okay, so that's your task for now. How can we develop that idea? And again, we'll put it together on the document on screen. And I'll point out what mistakes you're making. So as you're doing that, I'll continue giving feedback to the other students. In recent times, children spent a little time, must be a spelling mistake, practicing, I guess, sport rather than they did in the past. So again, rather than isn't used as a comparative like that. And then you said social media is the main reason, so that makes sense. Good. Second body paragraph, they should be motivated by parents and teachers to play and be aware of the benefits of playing physical activities. So I would just focus more on motivated by parents and teachers. Because you see, the thing is, if we're going to say they should be motivated by parents and teachers, is that really a solution as to what should happen? Because why isn't that happening already? You know, so for what we're saying is that's not happening enough. We need it to happen more. So, if we were politicians, we were in the government, we're all sitting around saying, how can we fix this problem? We wouldn't say parents and teachers should do more, and that's the end of it. If we just say that that's what parents should do, we haven't fixed the problem. So the solution then would be like, how are you going to make parents do that? How are you going to make teachers do that? Well, with teachers, we make it part of the school syllabus. So I think that would be a more direct approach, but you have to consider that. And then if it's parents, how are you going to alter the behavior of the parents? So we're saying at the moment they're not doing it, and we want them to do it. So we have to do something to help encourage parents to do that. So just saying they should do it, that's really the outcome that we want rather than the solution that we need. So, you might have, some kind of a public awareness campaign to promote this idea and encourage parents to motivate their children. But again, it has to be a solution. If we're just going to describe the outcome we want, that's not really a solution. So just be careful with that. More engaged in mobile phones, for sure. Hi, Akhil. Sports should be included in daily school timetable. Perfect. That's a very simple idea. Yeah. You know what? I'm even going to take that idea and I'm going to add that to our document there, because it's just very often the easier ideas are easier to develop later on. So if it's we should teach them about the benefits of being physically active, that's perfect because it's relevant and it's specific. But I think this idea is going to be easier to talk about by including sports in daily school timetable. Just say in the school timetable, in the school schedule, in their school timetable. Perfect. So I'm changing that idea, but that doesn't matter because at the moment we're developing the first idea about why it's happening. So we'll just stay focused on that for now. But I do think this idea will be easier to develop later on. Okay. Rasif, promoting the advantages and disadvantages of physical sports can change the situation. So I would say maybe promoting the advantages, yes, but promoting the disadvantages wouldn't help to motivate someone. So if you're going to say why it's bad to do why it's bad to play sports, that might discourage people. So what we're trying to do is motivate them. So promoting the advantages, yes. Promoting the disadvantages, no. I wouldn't include that. Social media, again, yes. Youngsters have developed less interest in participating in games as compared to the past. That's too vague at the moment, Alfred. So can you tell me why have they developed less interest? So your idea is relevant, but it's not specific. And unless it's specific, we cannot use it. We could get stuck at a band 6 for task achievement with a vague idea. So be careful with that. Smartphones and rigid study schedules are two principal causes leading to this trend. Good. I would only choose one. I would go with one of those ideas. Other teachers, they like to use two ideas, and that's absolutely fine. I prefer just to focus on as few as possible. It makes things less complicated. But both of those ideas are relevant and they're both specific, so that is good. But I would just recommend you to choose one. Facebook user, this might be attributed to the shift from doing more indoor activities comparable to more outdoor activities in the past. But that's what, no, it's too vague. So the question has already said that they're playing sports less, and you're saying it could be because they're no. Because I guess the problem here is you're talking about the shift, but I don't know what that shift is. So you're talking about the shift from outdoor to indoor as if it's kind of common knowledge. I'm not aware of this shift. So, and even if you're going to say indoor activities have become more popular, than outdoor activities. I still need you to tell me why did this happen? And then as well as that, some sports are indoor. So you're not excluding all sports by saying indoor activities. So it's too vague, and the language doesn't necessarily relate to the topic of the question either. Okay. Social media, video games, and smartphones are more interesting than sports. Regarding studying, do not have leisure time for sports. So again, too many ideas, but they're all good. All good, but too many. Teachers can implement frequent lectures that teach the health benefits of playing sports. Yes. The way social media is promoting online games, that creates curiosity among children. As a result, they involved in online games. Right. Okay. So Rasif is on Facebook. Sorry, I just need to find my live stream on Facebook here, and then I'm going to take Rasif's idea. Okay, so I'm going to take this, I'm going to add it to our document. Okay. So the main reason why children are spending less time playing sports is that they're spending more time on social media. The way social media is promoting online games. So let's say social media targets children to promote online games, which are very addictive and these make the children curious and they often get addicted to online games on these social media platforms. Now, maybe these games aren't on social media platforms, but my problem here is we just said that they're spending more time on social media. So if I then just say that they're spending more time on, if I say that they're just spending more time playing online games and I don't connect it back to social media, well, then my main idea isn't correct. They're actually spending more time on games. So I'm going to say that these games are on the social media platforms, and that just makes sure that my idea, my development is about my idea. If I didn't say that, I'd be worried that it looks like it's irrelevant. Okay, so as well as that, then Rasif has included an example. So I'm just going to grab that. And he says, for instance, children in my village play online games together. Children in my village. The children, because it's specific children. It's the ones in your village. The children in my village spend a lot of time playing online games on social media together. Like PUBG. I don't know if that's the name of a game, so I'm just going to leave it there. It feels like it should be a capital P, or it looks like you've made a spelling. I don't know, so I'm just going to leave that. Or Free Fire. Well, let's just say Fire. Okay, so for instance, the children in my village spend a lot of time playing online games on social media together like PUBG and Free Fire, while very few of them participate in. Very few of them play sport. So let's go back here and say most of the children. So let's see how long this is. It looks about right. 85 words. A little bit short, but looks good. Okay. So that would be our first paragraph written. And let's move on. Like I said, a little bit short. If we could expand on this a little bit, that would be better. But just to keep the lesson moving, we have this second idea. We can motivate them to participate more by including sports in their timetable. Okay, so okay. So that brings me then to the same question. How do we develop this idea, but with the new point? So we're looking at this point here. The best way to encourage students to play more sports is to make it a part of their regular schedules at school. How can we develop this idea? May we choose 2 ideas for each question? You can. So what you would do then is you would have 2 ideas in body paragraph 1. They would need to be both relevant and they would need to be both specific. And then after that, you would need to develop them equally. So yeah, it is possible. You can still get a good score. It just becomes more complicated. Very often where students go wrong is their ideas aren't relevant, or their ideas aren't specific, or they can't think of ideas. So my experience has been it's easier just to go with as few as possible. But your question is, can we? And the answer is yes. Yes, you can, but I don't recommend it. I don't see it as being the easiest way to get a good score. So yes, you can, but also don't. Okay. This is mainly because children find social media more entertaining and beneficial in comparison to sports. Yep, good. As children tend to spend most of their time in front of their screens indoors, they have hardly any time left to play for sports. So that would be an appropriate idea. Good. But not development of the idea, because we would already have said that in the first sentence. Social media applications like Facebook and WhatsApp, wrong spelling of WhatsApp there, Vipin, enable them to spend more time chatting with their friends and sharing pictures. No, in your comfort zone is when you're doing things that you're comfortable doing. So, if you're in your comfort zone, you don't have any challenges. So that's what we talk about. So what you're talking about is from the comfort of their own homes, which is a different phrase. What is the solution to words that don't reach up to 250? Your body paragraphs are too short. So for example, here, this body paragraph is only 85 words. It should be about 100. So if we write 2 paragraphs like that, then, our answer is going to be about 30 words shorter than it should be. So that would be the main issue generally, is your body paragraphs aren't developed enough if your essay is too short. The addictive nature of these platforms has resulted in increased usage of mobile devices among children, which has eventually reduced their interest in sports. This is very good, by the way. Very, very strong. Good. Children revert to social media apps because they find pleasure in dealing with others in easy and convenient ways. That would have to be plural because you don't have an article at the start. In addition, the daily routine of children from doing school homework and duties leave them a few space to do, leave them with little time to do any physical activities. Now, this isn't appropriate development. This is a new idea. So you haven't explained about social media. You've just moved on to another reason why they're not playing sport. That's not appropriate. You have to choose one idea and you have to develop that idea. If you think that a different idea, if you move to another idea, you're no longer developing the idea you said you were going to discuss, and that's not suitable. And duties leave them with a few space. Thus, they find less time to do sport and stick to using social media more. We don't want to summarize our idea at the end. So if we had our main idea at the start and then you put your main idea again at the end, that's not developing your idea. I mean, it's helping you to fill up the number of words that you need to fill up, but just repeating what you already said, that's not the type of development that's going to push you up to a band 8. So it'll help you reach the word count, but that's the only benefit you'll get from repeating the main idea again at the end of your paragraph. Those who have easy access to smartphones easily involve online games, seeing others. Okay. Most of my friends, for instance, when they were younger, played a lot of sports, but now that they have vast access to social media, they tend to spend most of their time indoors. Nice. Good. That might be, I think that's a better example than the one we have in our essay already. So that I like that example. That's good. Due to the availability of diverse platforms, they are facilitate to make new friends across the world. So they spend most of their time chatting and video calling with other friends. Drawing my own example, in a day, I spend many hours talking with my Facebook friends. So you're making some grammar mistakes there, so you'll need to focus on your grammar, but also drawing on my own example, in a day I spend many hours talking with my Facebook friends. The reader of the essay doesn't know if you're a child or not. And in general, the IELTS test is taken by some children, but rarely. Normally it would be young adults, just adults actually. Very often young adults, but normally adults. And then the exception would be for a child. So in this context, I'm not expecting this essay to be written by a child. So when you say what you're doing, I wonder, is it relevant? I don't know. It might be, but I don't know how old you are. Obviously on Facebook, I can see your picture here, so I can have a better guess. But in the essay, that's definitely not going to be the case. So, don't expect the reader to know where you're from, how old you are, what you're doing, your social class. Like, if you want to talk about yourself, that's fine. But make sure that you're giving that information to the reader. Okay, so Vipin, you need to start with the 21st century has been on the highlight. That doesn't make sense. Has been on the highlight. The highlight is not used in this way with all the technological advancements. So the 21st century has been has seen a lot of significant technological advancements, and screen devices have got flatter. So I'm not sure, like, how flat the devices are. I don't see. I know we didn't get your full response, but like how flat a screen is, I don't see how I would be more likely to use social media if the screen is flatter. So I know this isn't your full idea, but at the moment it seems like it's not going to be relevant. Okay, children need to get accustomed to sports by participating in school competitions on a weekly or monthly basis. In other words, schools need to run these competitions which are appealing to them, to motivate them to do more physical activities and thereby practice more sports. As a consequence, the children... Okay, this is looking very good. Not finished, but looking very good. Hi, Joshua. If sports lessons added to last lesson after tight schedule. Children can release stress and enjoy from them. So we're not really worried about them enjoying the sport, and we're not really worried about them relieving their stress. All we really care about is motivating them to play sport more. Or what does the question say? Yeah, motivate. So all we need to do is explain how will this motivate them to play more. Just saying the benefits of sports doesn't explain how they're being motivated. So that's not appropriate. If teachers could increase the duration of sports lessons, then more children would be encouraged to participate and thus achieve quality living standards. So again, we're not worried about quality living standards. We're not worried about relieving stress. We're not worried about them enjoying the sports. I mean, those are all good things. Don't get me wrong. I see why those are good things. It's not what the question's about. So we don't need to discuss them. Okay, so obviously what we would do is we would finish developing this idea that we're looking at here, and then we need to write the conclusion. In the conclusion, you're just going to repeat what we said in the introduction. So the conclusion would be something like, in conclusion, fewer and fewer children are spending their time. No. In conclusion, children are spending less time playing sports because of the attraction of social media, and they can be motivated to play more often by introducing more sports into their school schedules. Done. Yep. So again, kind of the typical mistakes that we saw today: irrelevant ideas, vague ideas, irrelevant development, and then vocab and grammar mistakes. So I have given you those corrections. Also, as I was reading out your comments, if there were grammar mistakes, I corrected the grammar mistakes. So instead of reading it incorrectly, instead of reading it the way you wrote it, I read it while correcting the grammar. So if you go back, if you rewatch where I was reading out your comments, you will be able to hear what the correct grammar was. So you'll be able to go back and kind of find out what your mistakes are, how they were corrected. So you'll be able to get a bit more out of that as well. I believe that's all we're going to have time for today. As always, it's been a pleasure. Talk to you next time. If you're signing up for my free live feedback lessons, see you tomorrow. The link is in the video description. Those of you with IELTS tests coming up, best of luck to you. Take care of yourselves.